on the K'Sante in that first game. But we're back into this picks and bans. It will actually be Shanji on that K'Sante again, just going through these last picks and bans. All right, let's try and decode some of this. Cream on the Yone. That was a successful champion pick for OMG in their series win versus WE, which was their last opponent before LNG. It was a long-range engage composition. Now the Maokai ult, the Varus ult, Yone ult, Renata ult, similar sort of style. LNG, very low-range composition on the top side of the map, and their bot laner, if they're out of position, they are going to get absolutely munched by this huge amount of teamfight engage from OMG. I think they have a better job, way to fight out these 5v5s compared to the first game.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, if you're wondering why we're looking at pick bans all of a sudden, there was no break, there was no nothing. We do not stop in this league. So we are going to go straight to live. We are going to try and catch up as quick as we possibly can, bring you all the action from all the different games, because we got to go fast. Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm surprised there's not a Hedgehog champion in League of Legends when there's 160
Rammus, as close as we get.
As close, yeah, pretty much. He's an armadillo.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there is armadillos in the Sonic. You know what? I'm not going to get into that. That's a different conversation for a different day in terms of how, you know, what kind of things come out. But anyway, jumping straight into the game, we touched briefly on these comps. OMG, bringing back the K'Sante. You mentioned it wasn't a bad pick. It was left on an island. I am terrified, though, for this K'Sante when you look at the other side. You got a Renekton and a Sejuani, two exceptional early game carries that can just really make your life a hell and don't let you scale. So really want to see LNG making the most out of that passive from the Sejuani with the two melee mid laners. And of course, Renata, we have not seen in such a long time, but I still think that it can just be...
now.
Yeah, very sparingly, but can be just so powerful in her own right. You get a hostile takeover that lands on 3 or 4 people, that can be the difference maker in these games.
And particularly when you have Yone ult, Varus ult, Maokai ult to help set that up for success, this is becoming something that we're seeing a little bit more from OMG. The long range, everything engage all the time kind of comp. They normally do it with something like a Rumble as well, but having that Maokai ult, which is on one of the most powerful champions in the game currently as it stands, we'll have to be tracking that one. LNG, if you get stuck into the mire of this melee versus melee top side of the map, that can come into play. Looking to start things off early though.
Oh, PP God. He's going to have to probably flash away from this one here, you would imagine. Yeah. Gets himself over the wall. Will he go down, though? That's the real question. One last auto attack will send him to the gray screen. That is the perfect start for LNG. It's a flash for a flash, but you still get 400 gold.
Yeah, and when LNG have this top side of the map, which has so much ability to fight early, any sort of lead sticks, and when you're removing summoners from the bot side of the map and maybe allowing the bot side of the map to be very stable for you, it allows the top side to fight basically no holds barred. We saw that in a couple of the games in our previous series too, where as soon as bot lane is kind of solved, the top side of the map just goes to party because they know they don't actually have to interact with that as much. The kill goes over to the double ranged 80 carries of the bot lane, the Jhin and the Ashe. Have to see if this Renata and the Varus can really stand up against that. It's just such a difficult lane to play against.
I mean, with Abel not really having a support right now because PP God has to play so defensively. You can see there with the Deadly Flourish start, LP and Hung just trying their absolute best to put down this bot lane, continually keep that advantage. They said, look, yeah, we have a Draven in the game 1. We don't need it in game number 2. We're going to make sure this you are just not able to have fun. And honestly, right now, this is exactly how game 1 went for LNG.
Yeah, so OMG, you have better team fighting in this comp, you got to feel. Already talked about that combo, one that we're starting to get to know from OMG. They love having this long range engage, but can they get to the point where they can fight on that kind of even footing? Cream on the Yone. He's had some excellent performances on it before. Had 9 kills in his last game, if my memory serves me right, but got himself an early death in this one as Tarzan looking to see if he can time out this Yone Q.
Oh, he does indeed. They're going to get the flash out of him. They get the abscond, abduct, and they're going to get a hell of a lot of damage onto him as well. Tarzan with the kill. LNG showing the mid-jungle combination and just punishing OMG once more.
It is exactly as you mentioned in that last game. It doesn't matter if Tarzan's on a Zac, on an Elise, on a Lee Sin, on a Sejuani. He just knows how to impact the game. On the Sejuani, gets into that mid lane, uses that melee synergy, and sets behind this Yone. Yone is such a different champion from the head or behind. Very snowbally champion in either direction. Getting a first kill onto that lane, very important. Takes away the flash, takes away the teleport. Scout and Tarzan have both of their flashes available to them. That could be a return gank angle. And if Aki's not in position to defend that lane, and Maokai is a very good counter ganker, don't get me wrong, but if he's not in perfect position to protect his lanes, this could really become a returning problem for OMG.
Did he squeeze past that right there? I think he
has.
did.
He's waiting for his Q cooldown as well. He can sit here for as long as he wants. The ward's just died. There is no information. Aki can head over and put his saplings down. Can he get away with this? Another double. He can. Is this going to give them another route into mid lane? How far up is Cream going to go?
Cream recognizes it now. Maokai walks over and kind of says, okay, there's somebody here, so there's not really much there. Scout did, of course, use the abscond abduct, so not really going to be able to make a full gank happen here, but Tarzan still thinking about hovering over. Again, look, they priority bot side, so they're going to be able to prove Hung over here as well, because don't forget, Tarzan did lose his Raptors and Red buff to Aki on that invade on the top side, so he's kind of just trying to return the favor at the moment. Looks like the rest of LNG have called it off and said, look, it's difficult enough to try and get this one going on top of a Maokai, so no need to overextend, overpush our luck. We'll back away. Plenty of camps for the Sejuani to take.
I'd like to briefly check in on this top lane as well. Zik has been left alone. This is the side quest island again, where you've got the top lane. It's just kind of sitting here. You're in the daycare. It's like, wow, your Cassandra's learned a new move. He can use like his Intopo strikes and footwork now. Ooh, crazy. But they have
use Hyperfang.
What?
It's level 58 Rattata. I play way too much Pokemon Blue and Red.
We do it all here on the LPL, but they will be coming into effect a little bit later into the game. I haven't really had to see how the Sejuani will interact with that lane. The Sejuani Renekton is a very powerful combination, which was called out earlier in the game. I mentioned that, but Cassante is one of the best anti-Renekton Sejuani combos in the game too, because you have that W much like an Aurelia W, but with a dash attached to it. Gives you the ability to be unstoppable, get some damage reduction, and then kind of like work your way out of that play. Be very good at kind of like absorbing the players. And what this means really is that OMG, between their top jungle, they have some ways if they're in the right position to outplay and play defensively against that combination. I can understand actually with that in mind why Tarzan did make that decision to go towards that mid lane as well. Swingy matchup with less ability to outplay that Sejuani. But less about that mid lane. Tarzan getting himself a dragon to the mix. But this is going to be 2v1 on the top side, but on the opposite side of what we thought.
Yeah, opposite side there. We are going to see the flash in by the Maokai as they try and make this one work. Flash for flash. Zika hasn't gone down just yet. He will have cooldowns in a second, so he's looking to try and maybe make this one work for himself. Nicely done there. Ooh. Thought maybe if he get one more auto attack off, he might have been able to take the Maokai with him. But now we're going to see Cream getting taken in on this mid lane here. He will get a little bit of CC down on top of him. Will force the flash out of Scout, as he almost had the fate sealed there for the LNG mid laner, but not to be. And now that we're seeing a couple more abilities being made available for OMG, they're kind of coming back to life.
Yeah, and Cream, again, really does bear mentioning how good and consistent of a player this guy has been for OMG and on the Yone pick, which is, he's known for a little bit now. Again, he has played it a couple of times in this season. Playing it into a flippy matchup versus Scout on Silas of all players and all champions as well. Scout, one of the real mid lane gods of the LPL. Getting himself something more for his value in that play, returning the favor a little bit. But we talked about this top lane, how Cassante can be pretty good against the Renekton Sejuani. We didn't really talk about the combination between Cassante and Maokai. It's not really anything to write home about. It's like very nearly turning that play, but doesn't quite get away with it. Suddenly, the Renekton, who've been doing well in the individual matchup, is given a little bit of gold over to the other side.
Yeah, Aki almost had egg on his face there. A little bit of this miscommunication there with the knockback.
What kind of egg group is it in? Is it the field group or the?
Oh my God! Come on now. That's a bit. That's too deep in the Pokemon lore.
Look,
you're lucky I caught on to that because
look, I normally allow myself like a certain amount of rationality per game, and we didn't have a break between game 1 and 2, so it is all coming out at this point.
It's all one game
over the Hysteria horizon.
As you're lucky I caught on to that because I have a friend who's shiny puns. I know I hear about this all the time. So, but yeah, like again, it's definitely a better or less chaotic start, I will say, comparatively to game number 1, where we saw a lot of Tarzan invade. Of course, Tarzan's still been just as active, just maybe not as chaotic. as we have seen before. There's Aki now with the ultimate available to himself, so both junglers going to be able to make that big CC play. I will say that if Tarzan goes in first and then you see the Maokai ultimate coming in afterwards, it can be a little bit difficult for LNG to really make any of that kind of damage stick, but we'll have to see on the execution. 2 minutes till the next dragon spawns. Thankfully, it will not be a Chem Soul, but, you know, we'll get there.
But we do have Herald, and we've got bot lanes moving up towards it. Varus staying in bot side, but yes, absolutely track those ultimates. Huge engage ultimates from these junglers. Tarzan looking to pin down the first target, and when you have a Silas and a Renekton, awesome amount of ability to do that. I'm more worried for what happens with LNG if they get caught behind the initial engage. What happens if the Maokai ult roots people behind the Sejuani? The Yone gets a flank when the Sejuani is tied up in the front line. That's where things get really interesting to track. OMG need to get past this bulwark at the front line, because if they catch people in the back line, and they certainly have the tools to do so, I think that's where they start winning in the 5v5s.
Rift Herald has been started and stopped a couple of times now between both junglers, as mid lane priority does tend to lean towards LNG. Scout was leaning down towards that bot side, but has now opted to go back into that mid lane. Not a lot of vision control here for either team as they look to try and make this one work. Again, very difficult to move in onto this Maokai with those saplings. Chain of Corruption comes out, but they've got the Ash Arrow to turn it back. There's the Maokai ultimate fate sealed, and they're able to turn that into 2 quick kills. Cream, though, will be traded back for one more. That one goes over to Hong. And that ends up being a 2-for-1 trade in favor of OMG to get themselves a Rift Herald as well. Yeah, and you can see the power that Yone can bring to these fights. You've got engaged with the junglers. Turns out the mid lane has got some to bring to bear as well. Scout didn't really get the best use of the stolen Maokai ult in that fight. It felt like if you could steal that away, that would have been a huge way to even up things in that play, but suddenly that gold advantage which you'd accrued through that first blood, through that bot side, the bot lane advantage, that is now gone. Now you've got that Herald in inventory of Aki as well. Gonna go back to the replay to see exactly how this all came about, because yes, you catch that Yone, but that's not onto the Varus. And as soon as that W shield comes out from Yone, the amount of HP differential that gives between the shield and the damage is just way too much. And if they could have finished off Cream before he ulted, hugely different play. They don't quite have the damage, they can't quite finish it off, and they're left left a bit bruised and battered from that fight. Interesting. LP going with a lethality Jhin. Something we do not see very often whatsoever.
Actually, if I'm going to nerd out about this, I'm seeing this a little bit more. We're also seeing the Muramana. This is a build which does a lot more damage to frontliners. Eclipse can sometimes come in later to the build. We've seen players like, we might just get a solo kill here as well. That could be fun.
That could be fun. Zika, flash for flash. Sanji underneath the tower. She'll be able to walk away from this one here.
Talk about item builds, and I'm like, yeah, Jhin goes for a lot of this damage. Maybe the Eclipse comes in later because the Mythic passive is, of course, percent penetration. But when you go towards the Muramana and you go towards the Eclipse and you get a couple of other kind of lethality items in, you can go towards the Ceruldas, you actually do an awful lot of damage from a very safe range to this front line. And when you consider that OMG are about long-range engage, catching the backline, the further away you can be, the better it is. But they're closing the distance themselves.
I was just about to say, the further away you can be, the better it is. But for PP God, he's still alive. And with the creepy caterpillar cats coming over. Ooh, Hong almost got taken out. They try to go forward, and Abel is not able to keep himself alive. PP God ends up surviving this one. Flash! Boom! Deadly Flourish! One more auto attack, but he doesn't have the range. Not quite able to make that one work there, but it's LNG again, finding opportunities, pushing forward, making a nuisance of themselves.
Yeah, and they are not as easily caught out this time. No Yone at the play, no ability to really close that distance onto someone like the ulting Jhin, and we're already starting to see how much work LP and Han can do from a very safe distance. Gonna go back into this replay to see how this one came across. Single target engage, that's what you're looking for. Abel being a pro, making sure he can guard with the Guardian and body blocking with his own form as well to make sure those 4 shots didn't come through. Scout though manages to turn things around at least into that first kill. Scout trying to see if he can follow up the mid lane.
They wanted to try and get the CC down, and it's all missing right now, so it really is not going into the position they wanted to. They do get them down in terms of the auto attacks, but now Hong has been left out to dry. Not exactly ideal there from the side of LNG, and again, it's just so slippery to try and burn down this Yone. He's got so many ways of getting away from you.
And once again, side quest island in this top side. Just left under turret. Shanji has the ult, not popping it right now. Tried to dive before. Where's the Domus? Cream! That we're just fighting all the time. It is melee versus melee in the mid lane. Cream on this Yone. Center of attention in this play. It's going to lead to that Herald going down. Cream and Aki sharing the gold for that one, but we've seen now OMG fire back a couple of times. Cream managing to get involved in things. It really does feel, if Yone is involved in the play, things are difficult for LNG. This long-range bot lane, even their front line getting tied up, is being very difficult for them to work their way through these team fights.
It really, really is, and Zika is not having a good time on this top side either. Renekton has kind of been left on his own, to be perfectly honest. Tarzan hasn't really gone there at all in any sense of the setup right now, but we'll have the Gore Drinker finally to try and deal with the Sunfire Cape of the Sanji, who's just kind of crashing the wave and has himself a little bit of a CS lead. So coming up to 15 minutes into the game, it is actually OMG with a slight gold advantage. 2 dragons though in favor of LNG, and Ocean Soul would be very, very nice for something like a Renekton and a Sylas. So right now that's going to be the priority for LNG. They've been very good so far this series at stacking these early dragons and getting us towards that early soul. Again, we're going to be looking at a 22-minute soul if all things go well for LNG.
Yeah, I think in this game, because it feels like it's going to be more about clutch engages, burst combos, something like an Ocean Soul is not going to be as potent as we saw in one of the games earlier today in the previous series, but it doesn't mean it doesn't have an impact. As you're saying, when you've got a Sejuani with a Radiant Virtue, you've got a Renekton, Gore Drinkering up in that front line with Kolomik as well coming through, it is very difficult to try and outplay that kind of situation when you've got that amount of extra HP ticking through. So, once again, 1 minute up until that dragon. Watch for this vision control. LNG holding on to good stuff for now, but they have themselves their Umbral Glaive, which very much helps in regards to that. Renata doesn't bring that to the table. So, vision control very, very key. Mid lane control too. Pushing in that wave will help get extra entry into this river. And maybe we can start seeing OMG kind of form their full combo together for one of the first times this game. Having this huge long-range engage, catching people out from LNG with Yone flying over a wall. That's what I'm very worried about for LNG, to the point where actually, if they don't have good vision control, I don't think they should risk going towards this dragon. That is how dangerous OMG's combo can be if they do catch out someone like this Jhin on the flank.
Zika is just having such a tough time right now. Not only is he kind of losing pressure, he's also down in the levels as well. So not going to be as impactful. As you can see, Cream and Scout duking it out as LP has to immediately use a cleanse, but there's a hell of a lot more CC following, and you've been brought away from the fight. That was so strange right there from the LNG AD carry, just kind of soaking up damage they just didn't really need to do.
No, I really like how OMG approached that mid lane dive. I thought it was about this objective setup. You can see that Scout, Tarzan heading towards that bot side without realizing that actually the danger came from top jungle. That top lane matchup, which Zika has been struggling so much in, utilized by Shanji to get a play onto that mid lane, gives him that dragon for free, stops that soul becoming a burgeoning threat. And when you give an extra ability for someone like the Yone to get extra items under their belt, very dangerous prospects. LNG no longer going to get themselves the early soul win condition. Now we have to see, how do LNG approach the next couple of minutes? They probably do still want to be getting up towards these objectives, but if they don't have the ability to play around their vision the way that they can do around these objectives, a lot of their composition is going to be quite difficult. How are they going to play around this single target CC when they can't protect their backline like this?
Again, just very, as you say, that's, I suppose, just kind of misjudged, I think is the best way to put it. Shanji now moving forward onto Zika. Hong is there as well. Hong needs to be careful. I was going to say, he's going to have the flash, but he gets dropped back straight away. He's dead. They are just really underestimating the power that Shanji has on this Cassante, and he's punishing them rightly.
And this is exactly why, what we were just talking about, why we're worried for LNG now, because despite having a good single target composition which can fight front to back in their own way, if you don't have the vision for that, you're going to get picked apart by OMG and their ability to push in on these side lanes and engage over walls. Now they're looking to get something here, but this is a combo you should have used probably about 10 levels ago. It's not there right now, and Shanji is walking up, and yes, Sylas is coming through. Shanji can just ult someone through a wall. I think he actually makes it out of this.
I don't think he does if he goes that way, though, because guess what? You can steal away the ultimate, and you can bring him further away. Good proactive play here from LNG, finally getting something going for them against this Cassante.
Okay, fair play. Actually do manage to drag him back with the stolen all out. Drags him through the wall before he can get his own way out of things. Important kill. Pins OMG back on that top side of the map. Stops them having winning side lanes on both sides of the rift. Still, godly to OMG, being able to push in this mid lane. And despite that one kill, it's not really... That's the first stage of something. The second stage needs to be taking over an area of the map and then being able to play around it. The arrow doesn't lead to anything in that mid lane. And LNG, despite being able to clean up house with that Cassante, it's stalled out from there. It's the start of something which hasn't really been able to be capitalized on.
Wait to see now. OMG still have an advantage. Still looking very good the longer this game goes on. Again, it's very interesting to see LP go towards that more lethality-based build, like I said, with the Murmana and, of course, the Eclipse. How does that... I was just about... How the hell does that ward not see him there? But it didn't, but...
Geometry.
Yeah, well, just how it is. Just the movement of the map, as you can see now. Ooh, a Fate Seal that was stolen. Not going to be the seal of the deal onto this top lane. That's a TP down now as well, so... These are small little things that aren't really working out that great for the side of LNG. OMG just calm, cool, collected, making sure that they're picking up what they want. And if you look at the items they've picked up as well, they've gone with the on-hit virus. They're going to say, look, we're gonna shred you. We're going to shred the objectives as well. So we're not really worried about a timer. We're not really worried about, anyone kind of losing relevancy in the next, 10, 20 minutes.
Yeah, that build is literally saying that, okay, you have a Renekton, Sejuani, and a Silas who are getting melee. I want the extra shield, and everyone else is pinning people down in front of me anyway. I actually have good damage with that shield bow, being able to rack through these tanks. I actually like this from Abel an awful lot. You're not going to win the poke versus poke trade versus the Jhin and the Ashe, so why try and beat them at their own game when you can win in another facet? Scout on the flank has the flash. Which ult is he looking to steal? Are they even looking for the fight?
I imagine he's looking at me. I was going to say, probably the virus chain of corruption immediately has to be cleansed away. Actually, Cleanse and Mikhail's were used. A little bit of miscommunication. Yeah, double tap there, unfortunately. Just give him a little bit of extra healing off the back of it, so not the worst thing in the world. But won't have now the Cleanse or possibly the Mikhail's before this Dragon spawns in a minute's time. And again, LNG is still looking for that win condition. No TP for Cream, as he's going to have to try and reset now after pushing this way.
Okay, once again, with... Really starting to worry for LNG in this composition. We were kind of asking already over the last phase to play, okay, you've kind of taken down Shanji in this side lane, that's cool. What are you doing with that next? How are you actually engaging onto these enemy targets? And we talked about it being single target. Renata has that first item, Mikhail's Blessing. You talked about that being very important there. There's the Cleanse on Varus. Yeah, not helpful to use both of them, but having them available means that LNG need to really start problem solving as to how they're going to start getting advantages in this game. They have the arrow back up with the cleanses down. Maybe this is your timing window, but you got to find something.
They found the flash, and a fair bit of damage on a PP got enabled, as Shelly is not going to be able to do her favorite thing in the world. Very sad, F's in the chat. But we'll see now what OMG can do. You've no flash, you've no cleanse. You might just have the Mikhails for you just about, basically, as the cooldown is coming off. But Aki now on the back of this pit is going to try and just be a nuisance, maybe use that ultimate to try and separate someone out and isolate them.
Okay, so all ultimates up. Maokai ult pulled, looking for the big engage.
They're looking for the big engage, but they get the blast cone, and now the Maokai's followed over. I don't know if that's where exactly he wanted to be. They need to try and kill Aki because Tarzan's in the wrong place at the wrong time. Zika hasn't really done a lot at all. The Ashe's been killed.
Nuts!
He's going crazy on the backside there, and this is going to be a clean fight for the side of OMG. They're able to get themselves 4 kills, maybe even 5 as Scout looks to try and play this one a little bit clever, but he's already surrounded. He knows there's nowhere out for him right now. Cream thinking about looking for him. They will use the Sconda just to dissuade anything else. That's 2 dragons now for OMG. And LNG now really starting to see the errors of their ways. Their early game that looks so good just isn't paying dividends.
Oh, and they leave Scout alive to send the message back to the LNG fans. Huge loss for them around this dragon. This is what we've been worried about the entire game. LNG, you can play through the early game, you have some good combos to play around, but eventually you're going to have to deal with something that OMG is starting to show more and more of. And it is big, long-range, engaged compositions centered around something like a Yone, something like a Maokai. And it really helps that Shanji is absolutely blasting the backline and keeping them to account so they can't wreak havoc on the rest of things. But OMG, you can see the power of this composition, and LNG, they are still being asked the same question. what do you do when OMG choose to engage? They don't have options right now. They need to think of something different.
They're going for a Baron. Shanji, they want the TP. That's all they want right now. They just want the TP. They don't want anything else. Shanji's in the bot side. Actually, never mind. Abel is actually basically in his own base right now, so they might not be able to get this one. Zika hasn't moved down just yet. 4,000 HP. It's going to be a smite fight. They're going to use the Maokai ultimate. You need to burn this one down. They're going to try to take the jungler out. He doesn't do it in time, and it's secured by Scout. Baron for LNG. Shanji still alive. I don't know how. Now he goes down, and then we can see a real fight. There's the curtain call coming in. This Ashe, this Jhin, there the damage. This Scout has got to do something. There's another kill. Cream dies before he can do any damage. And LNG have bursted back on the map. They took a risk and they're being rewarded.
They find the creative play. They force OMG into a poor fight around Baron without the AD carry for the start of it. LNG, they do the calculations. There's computer brains running at overload, and it works out just about. Real magic from LNG, looking to keep that clean sheet, not lose a game just yet. Even though the Maokai ult comes in across this Baron, normally a blue side Maokai can continue into the pit. LNG are happy to fight in there. Cream doesn't quite get enough done. The Jhin is full HP, has a build which can do so much damage. Abel, in his, I suppose, rush to join that fight, finds himself in a really poor position to keep himself alive. And LNG, they really make the most of that play when it felt like it was all but done.
There's huge timing as well from the side of LNG in the sense that they waited until the revive, the bailout from PP God was gone off of Cream. Then they focused him as he tried to go in on that. So really nicely done there, just making sure he doesn't get the free revive, making sure he doesn't get an extra couple of seconds off of a, to make a damage or two down and get himself off. So really, really well done by them. And now we're coming into a game where LNG have made a 6,000 gold swing. Effectively,
Arrow.
as you can see it, Ashe Arrow lands on the PP God. Not really the one they're going to be able to kind of go onto as Shanji is there. There's going to be the Chain of Corruption coming out alongside the Glacial Prison. PP God hasn't been able to move. A good ultimate might be the death of Scout. Yes, it is. They're going to get the ultimate as well off of the Yone, who tries to move forward onto this one here. Sejuani has gone down. LNG, you tried too much. You bit off more than you could chew. OMG can run up. They can end the game. You don't have wave clear.
Oh, the magic they had at the Baron has fizzled out. The fairy dust is gone. It is a Pixie's nightmare. That deal turns so sour. And just as they felt like they've gotten something good, they got themselves some items to play around. Now they find themselves losing even more gold. That Baron power play is going to be all but thrown to the wind, losing an inhibitor. OMG back on the map in force.
Oh, you just tried to hard force it, and again, you talked about it so much. The turnaround from OMG, the counter engage available to him, the hostile takeover, the ultimate from the Maokai, just the Shanji ultimate to be able to take someone out and away from the fight. It's just too big, and they stopped running the water.
Yeah, and actually one of the big things about the difference between this fight, which OMG win, and the one that they just lost to the Baron, there was no Renata ult at the Baron. Aki comes in with a really clutch block to allow PP God enough time to force LP back with that ultimate, to force some extra damage coming through. And LNG, they can't defend this position. They don't manage to take down Creed early on into the fight. Never mind someone like Shanji, who runs wild on the backline once again. And OMG back onto the map now, back in their own side of the jungle though, with 30 seconds to spare on this Dragon Swarm. I think LNG, if they can control one of these choke points, maybe they can find themselves something to fight around. Look for the next arrow. Mikhail's is back up. Cleanse is back up. It's a hard job landing your mark onto a target that can actually stop that cleanse. Mikhail stolen though. Another way to control that threat.
This could be the final fight. You can see there, Super Minions now pushing into that, towards that mid lane. LNG know they're on a bit of a timer. They don't want to give away a Quadra Mount or Ocean Soul. There's a good Maokai ultimate, lands on the 2. They're getting some decent damage on the Shanji, who gets the Mikhails. Important to recognize that one there. We're going to see Nove's gone abduct. They're going to use a lot of damage now onto Aki. They're not able to get some more down onto it. No one dies just yet, but they've got some decent damage. Sanji gets caught out. They're going to try and get Zick onto the backside. He flashes in on top of Abel. They're going to have to try and take out Cream as well. He will fall. And LNG have said, look, that was just a blip on the radar. It's not a big deal. We still own this map. They're going to get the 2 kills. They're going to be able to get the dragon. And this game shall continue.
Jin gets massive value in that fight, and now LNG, they get themselves another dragon, and they're showing that actually, if you get the right terrain, they can fight these out as well. There's no easy way for Yone to get into the backline in that fight, way too far away, and Shanji also not able to impact things. LNG, they've been asked an awful lot of questions this game. How do you puzzle out this big engaged combat? How do you puzzle out keeping your backline safe? They've managed to find a couple of answers to it now. Scout, Zika, holding up different flank angles. Cream uses his first E in this fight to try and keep Zika at bay, but that means he's not getting on top of this Jin, not getting on top of someone like Scout either, and Cream struggles to get value, whereas the solo laners and the AD carry of LNG get maximum value for themselves.
Yeah, the chain of corruption only lands on the Hong as well, so you're kind of after the chain of corruption goes, you don't really have the hostile takeover. It's just like, what else do you have to stop them from running on top of you? And I think it was just really good kiting out there from LNG as they come back out with the sole point. We're going to have Baron spawning in 30 seconds, but honestly, the way things have been going, it feels like when OMG fight an objective, they lose, but when they fight in just a kind of an open plane, like you said, the mid lane or such, they have such a better advantage. So I really am curious to see now what kind of terrain they want to try and fight into, and right now, it's just hard.
But that really is kind of puzzling to me, because the thing for me is that I think LNG win when they have chosen the terrain, they've done actual good setup. I feel like they've gone a little too far when it hasn't been an objective. Maybe been getting a little bit lackadaisical. Maybe just coasting through to the next timer, and that means that they had given OMG time to engage. I still feel like around these objectives, if OMG get to arrive at the objective first, they get to set up vision, they should still have an advantage there too. It's just about OMG choosing their own way to go for their combo.
Here we go. The Ash Arrow's not going to hit anybody, but there is the Maokai ultimate. The first one is OMG's. The second one is OMG's. The Baron is secured. PP got taken very low, as is Cream. He gets himself over the wall. Hostile takeover is good to delay, but they're not really getting away with this one right now. Flashes are still down. They haven't really confirmed any kills, but nobody's gotten out safe yet. I lied. Cream finally got the recall off. Shanji's now dead as they look to try and get more. Abel still sitting there waiting for something to happen, but he's got nowhere to go. He's going to be falling down just as quickly as well. 2 kills before a Baron. You feel like it's the correct call there for OMG. They're just not going to have it on the same amount of people that they would like.
Yeah, Shanji, Abel sacrifices a rear guard to make sure the rest of the troops can make their way back to the fountain, make their way back with that glorious Baron buff. And OMG, you can see them trying to take control of an objective space first, trying to find a way to control this objective, but LNG don't allow them the time, don't allow them the presence of mind to actually be able to go towards this big play, not being able to set up their vision. And credit to LNG for really forcing OMG into a very difficult set of decision-making moments, which they barely get away with. They barely get away with it. Still, having to reset very, very quickly, losing 2 people on the map as well. It's not like LNG are without their victories from that play as well.
It's a close game. 2 minutes are just a little bit underneath it for the next Dragon to spawn. That will be Soul for LNG. 25 towers to 4, 14 kill apiece. Gold is effectively even. There is a Baron for another minute and 30 seconds. So you will have Baron to be able to kind of coax your waves up and get yourself set up into a position now of power. Inhibitor going to be just respawned, actually. So LNG will have that presence now around this objective, not worrying about super minions maybe collapsing on top of them. There's some great vision on that bot side as well. I will note, though, that you did use the TP from Scout to get that great flank to kind of pincer them in. He won't have that this time around. He does nearly have himself a Medjai Soul Stealer if he wants to try and upgrade it just before this next fight, but a minute till Dragon.
Well, this key is going to be key objective setup. Shanji not quite quite managed to channel W in time, but those are big ultimates used. Those are huge ultimates used. That Maokai has been game turning in some of these big fights. Aki not going to have access to it. It's not ranked 3 yet. Got a minute on this Dragon spawning, and I feel like that is a moment of impatience, maybe a misread on the play, which means that, yeah, I think it's panic. And now OMG, one less big tool to deal with. They do have some other big tools to put into perspective, though. Double GA onto the Yone and onto the Varus. Incredibly important. Stopwatch on the Maokai. And on the other side, you've only really got that one stopwatch in the form of the Zhonya's on Scout in terms of the ability to buy that extra bit of time. It's not like they don't have some big breakpoints for this. They're also buying some elixirs. You can see a couple of them hanging around. Elixir of Iron on Shanji. means he's got a bit more tenacity to bring it to bear as well. Again, it really does feel like with 3 Dragons from LNG, Soul on the table, this could be the deciding fight.
There is still no Maokai ult. You have got the Ashe ult though, and that's the difference. That's why you don't have a problem throwing it out every now and again. They want to try and delay this if you're OMG. You know you're down a big tool that would just be massive for this team fight. Shanji trying to be aggressive, pushing forward. They just about get it on top, so now Aki will just about have access to it. They've delayed it just long enough, so OMG back up to a full deck of cards. Zika trying to maybe just move forward on top of this. Scout gonna go soak up a little bit of damage here and then throw out a little bit of a ult of his own. They do catch out a lot of people. Cream taken very low. They can use the curtain call. Zika trying to jump onto the backside here and be a nuisance, and they get on top of everybody. Shanji trying to go god mode. The GA has been popped onto Cream. Ashe is dead. There's 2 GAs. They had second lives. They're finally going for it. Shanji, it's just too big on this backside, and OMG come out with the fight.
OMG have done it. I think with that, that will be the first game loss of 2023 for LNG. Undefeated no more, but they were given a run for their money, were OMG. It is hard fought. They had to take a couple of teamfight losses back to back, but with the minion wave in tow, and only Tarzan standing between them and those Nexus towers, this should be it.
It should be it. He's trying to see if he can get rid of the minions, but it's just not going to happen right now. Just so many tools, so many second lives available for OMG as they look to try and make this one work. Abel flashes away because he knows he doesn't want to give over another little bit of kill participation, but even if they kill off, I think honestly they kill off 2 people here, it doesn't even matter, to be honest. Sante is going to be able to end this game. Shanji gets the final last hit, and OMG give LNG their first game loss of 2023.
And this is exactly why we were talking about this kind of series as a very good benchmark for where our teams currently stand in LPL Spring 2023. LNG undefeated in series, undefeated in best of ones before this as well, sat at 3-0 with a 6-0